Alright guys, I have a maneuver here that is basically straight lines from front to back, and we're looking at dressing down, and sometimes we call this covering down. And when you cover down, person number 2 needs to be behind person number 1. So person number 1 that's in front is always in charge. When we say cover down, we're looking for you, if you're person number 2, 3, or 4, to get directly behind the person in front of you. If everybody covers down, you end up with a nice straight line. So this is at ground level. You would be able to see just shoulders and hats going the whole way back. If you're sitting up a little higher in the stands, you're going to see bodies going straight back. So this is important for a couple of reasons. We want to make sure that when we're holding still in a maneuver, we're marking time, that we're in a straight line from front to back, covering down, but it's also important whenever we move. Alright, so I pulled up a move where we're going to be taking 2 blocks and moving them together. This is actually the end result. So we're going to see 2 blocks, one from this side of the field and one from this side of the field, and they're going to be moving towards each other, and they're going to be kind of weaving in between each other. And we want to make sure that this block of people are straight, that they're covering down in these front to back lines. Same thing with this block that's going to be over here. Whenever that happens and they start to mesh together, so let me show you what's going to happen whenever we start to move. See, they're covering down this way, and these lines are straight as well. So you can see it. I'm going to do this again. At certain points, you're going to see where these lines intersect to make one giant straight line. Look right here at the 50. Boom, they're on a straight line, straight line, straight line. Okay, and that would keep going. So let's look at this. We're going to look at that same move on a ground level view. We're right on the 50-yard line, so you'll be able to see what's happening here. Straight line, straight line, straight line. Okay, so you can see how it's important, even whenever you're moving, that you are covering down and staying behind the person behind you. Alright guys, we're going to be dressing some lines here. So what I did is I pulled up part of the show, and I wanted to take a couple looks at it here. Here we have kind of a vertical view of one of our forms that we're doing. And I want you to take a look at all of these diagonals. They're nice and straight from multiple views. If we turn it this way, you can see the different diagonals that are becoming perfectly straight as you go along. So the question is, how do we make those lines nice and straight? So we're going to take kind of a front view. This is how you would see it if you were looking directly at the band. But if you're sitting somewhere from a side, let's say you're sitting on the 35-yard line, you might see something like this. And you see these diagonals, how they're straight at this angle. Although you can't tell from this way so much. If you're sitting on the side, you can see that diagonal is either straight or not straight. And as we continue down, we can see the rest of these lines as well. So, let's take a look at some stuff. Alright, so we're looking at a different view here. What I did is I pulled some people out of these diagonals so that you can see what we might be seeing whenever we're looking at dressing a line. So let's start with this first one on the end. So we're looking down this diagonal. We can clearly see that there's someone that is not correct, and it's this person right here. So this person needs to look at where these two are and probably just take a step to the right. Let's take a look at it from a higher view. So if we look at it this way, we can now see that yes, she needs to take a step to her right or his right, and then that person would be in line. Let's take a look at this next line. So we're looking at this one right here. So we have the person in the very front of this line, did not hit their mark. So we have one of two options. Either this person right behind him needs to get right behind this guy so that the rest of the diagonal moves over, or we just need to make sure that this person is getting to their spot. But people aren't perfect. They're not perfect marchers, and whenever you're in the heat of the moment or you're in a performance, sometimes you might miss your spot by a step. So if this happens, when this diagonal is forming, we want to make sure that whoever is second in line would be setting up the diagonal right behind this person, even if they're wrong. So that's called dressing a line. Because if person 2 changes, person 3, 4, 5 hopefully would do the same thing, and then we would end up with a straight diagonal. So there's multiple ways of fixing that. But we're looking at dressing a line, so make sure that we are looking down and following. Now, if we look at this a different way, maybe this person in the front did hit their mark, but the person behind them wasn't paying attention and missed, but everyone else behind them is a stud. Yeah, they did a nice job, but it was actually person number 2 that maybe didn't dress the diagonal properly. So there's multiple ways of looking at this. The best way is that if you're doing a diagonal or any kind of straight line and you're able to see, then you want to make sure that you are setting up the rest of your line for a good diagonal.